So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Trace Indy Coffee Conversations. My next one is a treat. And if you are anywhere in Indy and you are on the socials, or if you are out and about, you know this name, even if you don't know this face. So everyone, this is Melanie Allen.
Hi,
So
friend.
excited. So Melanie is CEO and co-founder of Green Loop Marketing. She is from the state, from the region, which I just found out, and I've known you for years. That's why you're spicy. I went to school at IUPUI, right? She's the director of communications for Creative Morning Indy, something near and dear to all of our hearts. She's done work with the Cultural Trail, Coburn Play. She's a mama too. She's engaged in the city. And I mean engaged. Like she loves Indianapolis. And I want to talk to her and I want her to talk about that love. And I am so excited, Melanie, for you to join me. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm really delighted to be here. A little nervous. I'm not used to talking about myself. I'm used to talking about clients, but I'm going to give it my all this morning.
It's going to be great. We're going to hear all about your journey and your story and your legacy. And while that sounds like a lot, it's just conversation between two friends. It's going to be great. We're going to have tea and coffee. So tell everyone, because that's a lot. What do you do? Like, what's a day, a week? What do you do?
Yeah. So, wow, what's a day? I always like to say that in marketing, you never have the same day twice, which even in like the Zoom world where you're at your computer all day, every day is a little bit different. So with Green Loop, we are in our 5th year. We focus on kind of the whole gamut of digital marketing, everything from website copy and white papers and all of that really heavy hitting foundational content, all the way down to, copy and creative for like individual social posts. So ton of email marketing, paid social, paid ads in the Google and search spaces, and ultimately, anything that a client needs in the digital space. We do a little bit of traditional marketing for current clients, but if somebody were to come to us and say, hey, we need a billboard or a print ad, and that's all, we would probably refer them to another agency that really focuses in that space. So yeah, we focus on mid-sized businesses here in central Indiana. We're actually launching our first client out of state next week, which is a pretty cool milestone for us. So we're really excited about it.
And you are women owned. Your co-founder is a woman. You have mostly women on staff.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really important to you.
It is. Yeah. So 100% women owned. My business partner, Meghan Martin, is one of the best marketers I've ever met, one of my dearest friends. And she and I were freelancing together at another agency and just really hit it off. The other agency went in kind of a different direction where they were doing more Salesforce implementation and things that Meghan and I weren't really passionate about. And we thought, hey, let's do our own thing and turn it into something great. And we really have. I'm so proud of it.
I love it so much. So you have this giant love of the city. And for those that have been around, any billboards that we see, you do a lot of work, and we just interviewed, and everyone, hopefully you caught it too, Lindsay Lord from the Arts Council. And you guys have worked together for a while on billboard projects and lots of other things. And again, really driving home that love of Indianapolis. So you're from the region, came to college here, so embedded here, obviously husband, kids, everybody goes to school here. How did you get here? And why is it important to be so engaged in the city?
So something that I talk to a lot of college students and young women specifically as they're figuring out their career. And something I like to tell them is sometimes you have to do things you're not really excited about or things you don't want to do to get to where you want to go. So when I was going to college, all my friends were going to Purdue. And I was like, I'm going to go to Purdue. I'm going to go to Purdue. And my mom was like, you're going to go wherever you get the most scholarship money. And, if that's Purdue, great. But if not, you're going to have to go somewhere where they give you more money. And so that's how I ended up at IUPUI. Begrudgingly at the time. I absolutely fell in love with it. At the time, they had one just totally dumpy dorm on campus. And I lived there the first year, like you couldn't smoke inside. So that's like telling you like how dumpy it was. Funnest year of my life. I met some of my dearest friends and really got into a great groove with the communication studies program. I feel like I ended up having a really small school experience in a big city at a big school. And it worked out beautifully. And then, I did love Indy when I was in college, but again, kind of similar to my high school experience, all my friends were leaving. They were all going to Chicago and I wanted to go to Chicago. And I actually met my husband the week that I graduated, which is so funny. And I was kind of dragging my feet on moving because I had this killer apartment at 22nd and Meridian. I was living by myself. It was like very Carrie Bradshaw wannabe. And I met my husband. I was like, this dude's okay. I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to see what happens. And we got married 3 years later, and he's originally from Indy. And so I've learned so much more about Indy and loving Indy through him. And it's been really great. And so now we have 2 kids here and we're obsessed. And, both my kids say like, I want to go to Butler and I want to live here and work here. And maybe I could be the mayor someday. And I'm like, yes, stay here in Marion County. we don't love to talk about like the rest of Indiana. But Marion County, I'm a ride or die.
It's so Indy. Good. It's so good. So, being a mom, being a business owner, a small business owner, but growing, and obviously growing in a pandemic. So we've been in it for 3 years. You just had a 5-year anniversary. You're about to have a 5-year anniversary. Where have you found, and I always love for those that listen or watch that we are going to bookend it. So where's some of that struggle, but where's the joy? Like, where are you finding your delight?
So a struggle that I think a lot of marketers can feel is that a lot of times people will think, okay, well, I have an email account. I get, campaigns from brands. I know about email marketing. Or, I have a Facebook account. I can do a Facebook ad. And people don't really realize like marketing is absolutely a fun job, but it's also really, really difficult, especially because things change constantly. And to be able to keep up with, specific privacy laws and email laws and the algorithm shifts on different platforms and new platforms. I mean, it's bananas. It's like drinking from a fire hose all the time. And I just think there are so many people who don't realize how much work goes into the back end. And so that's something that we look for, like in an ideal client, is people will ask, like, are you looking for a certain industry or a certain budget amount? Sort of, but what we're really looking for is somebody who kind of understands the work that goes into marketing and, running a successful marketing program, shifting as you learn more and you get new data. And that's really what we look for, is people who want to provide marketing kind of the space and attention it needs to thrive.
I love that. So has that been where, because I know you've shifted, with direction and obviously now going outside. So if you found some of that joy, you got that client in a pandemic, which is.
Yeah.
So like, is that where you're finding some of that, where are those small, not even small wins, but where are those little celebrations, those joys for you?
Yeah. So sometimes a win does not present itself immediately as a win. Yeah. And so, one of the reasons that Meghan and I built the business the way that we did is so we had some control over the type of people we get to work with.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, lots of different personalities. Sometimes people have a bad day, but if you have a client that consistently you're having a bad experience with, and that is, trickling to your team members, and it turns out like, hey, we don't love working with these folks, then, we have kind of that hard internal conversation where it's like, hey, here's a reminder to ourselves, like, we built the business this way so we don't have to work with a poor client, a bad client.
That. Yeah.
And so we have, it feels so weird to say, but we've actually let clients go or in the pandemic. And then at the time it feels so scary, right? Because it's a really big decision. Ultimately you're walking away from money on the table and work, but then it opens you up to a better fit, work you're more passionate about, things that your team can really feel good about, which is the most important thing to me. Because if my team is really happy with the work that they're working on, they're going to feel more enthusiastic about the workday. They're not going to have like the Sunday scaries to an extent. And then that makes their entire life better because they're not dreading work. And so, at the time when you're letting a client go or a big client, it's scary. And then you get a little bit down the line, you trust yourself, better things are coming, then that becomes a win. But when you're in the thick of it, it feels like just absolute mayhem.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm actually internally going, that one, that's a pull quote. And two, like, what a great reminder, one, for women, and those not just that own their own business, but you get to decide who brings you joy and who you get to surround yourself with. And I think that's a really great takeaway, whether you're a business owner or just a human being. And I think that's really lovely. So let's go to what can the community do to show up? So actually, when I asked this question, what can the community do to show up? I at times think of you, and I'm always wondering where would Melanie Allen go? Because you're so engaged civically, great mom, really connected with the city and things that are going on. And I'm always curious. So I'm super selfish. I get to have coffee with you this morning. What would you say? What can the community do to show up?
Yeah. So my immediate answer there is to, it's literally as simple as voting. Making sure that you are understanding there's so many issues that Indiana is, I think of that like Maya Rudolph scene from The Good Place where she's like, Earth is a mess, y'all. Like Indiana is a mess. And Indianapolis is this great pocket in the state, like to an extent, but there are definitely some messy things here as well.
Yeah.
But, find those causes that you care about and causes that maybe you feel like they don't matter to you.
Yeah.
And think about, okay, maybe they don't matter to me, but they matter to my neighbors. They matter to my friends. How can I rally around those people and support their needs? So I'm kind of getting on a tangent here, but
no, I love it. Go.
Think beyond yourself.
Yes.
Always. And then show up and vote and kind of like dig in, especially with the primaries coming up, dig in on like, maybe it looks like there are two great candidates. And like, you don't want to be at the poll and say, God, I don't know enough about either of these people. I'm just going to pick a name. No, don't just pick a name. Like dig in, look and figure out what matters to these folks. Maybe how are they showing that it matters to them? How are they doing the work? Look for action over words, because with social media, people can quite literally be anybody that they want.
Yep.
And people show up on social media in a totally different way than they're showing up in real life. And so who is actually doing the work? And I was just talking with one of our mutual friends about this yesterday, is I'm so tired of people who say they're doing the work and they're not. And it's all just for show. And I mean, like, help or get out of the way. And if you're not really doing anything, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear from you. Pull your life together. Do something. Now my region is coming out.
I love it. Earrings are going to come off soon. We're going to get deeper. It's so good. It's so good. I knew that I wanted to ask you that question. So I'm so excited that we got to do that. But let's go to the big one, right? The big one that everyone, I know that you've prepped. Everyone preps. They either like think deeply for about a week, or they're just like, I'm going to wing it. And I know that there's alcohol in their coffee. So let's see where you are. So Melanie Allen.
Yes.
How do you want to leave your trace?
So kind of tying in a lot of what I've said today is something that I'm obsessed with is doing good work for good people. And I was telling a friend about this the other day about, they were asking like, what do you want to grow Green Loop into? And people will always say like, don't you want an office? Don't you want this and that? And like, sure, but I would rather, take immediate, genuine care of our team members
Yeah.
through more payment that, I mean, I'm able to pay them more because we don't have an office, and just like doing kind of that gritty work for the people around me. So doing good work for good people. And then kind of, I mean, it's not necessarily a secret that I am a little bit of a loudmouth.
I don't think you're a loudmouth.
And so I'm gonna keep being a loudmouth for things that matter. And so, yeah, not a loudmouth in the sense that like if somebody tells me a secret, I'm gonna.
You speak truth. You
Not in
speak
that
truth
way,
to power a
but
lot.
a loudmouth and like, hey, here's this state senator in Fishers who's ruining transit for us, and let's make sure that doesn't happen. So kind of being loud about things that matter that maybe other people aren't going to hear. So that's really important to me.
I love that. Yeah. I want to love on you for just a moment because I love the things I remember. And I think this speaks to you as a person speaking of that loud, because when you say loudmouth, I don't think of the crazy parent like at the school board saying things that are horrible, like not that. What I want people to take away, how I envision, how I see you in that loud is someone has a job opening that used to be all white men. And you specifically take an email directly to say that boss of that said company and go, cool. What are you doing to hire a woman? And what are you doing to do it in the city? Now that's not loud from a pulpit, right? But that is loud. And
I
want people to understand
example you are referring to. Yeah.
I want people, like, I think that is a beautiful trace that without being super up here where everyone like recognition-y, again, doing the work or get out of the way.
Right.
And I think that's super beautiful. And that's one of my favorite stories that you've done that I got to witness. And I want people to understand that that's the Melanie Allen. So I just think that's fantastic. And I think you're beautiful. And I love what you do for our city. And I'm just really grateful for your time this morning.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This has been such a delight. Can I add one thing?
Always.
My hair is like I
love it.
Fired up. When we talk about showing up, also remember to show up like in a way, like text a friend in the middle of the day and just say, how's it going? What's going on? Tell me the best part about your day. Send your kid's teacher a $10 Starbucks card. Like do like little things that, somebody could really be having a terrible day.
Yeah.
And they get a text from you and they're like, oh, damn, I'm so glad Jillian texted me. God, that's so nice. Not that like I have that power over people, but just to let them know, like the Creative Morning Love Bomb. Yes. When you think about like, oh my God, someone is thinking about me and that feels so nice. So just say hi to your friends, say, hey, I'm thinking of you. How's it going? Or how did your presentation go today? How was your kid's soccer tryout? Show up for people in little ways every day. And that creates really rich, meaningful friendships.
It's so good. See, I'm going to take that with me Thursday. I have like a whole list in my head. I'm like, I'm going to send some messages out. I love it so much. And that is a legacy in itself. So again, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been a delight.